So we're a week older than we were last week. So we're a week closer to our death. When you think of all the causes and conditions that we had to create in previous lives to have the rebirth we have now, which isn't just an ordinary human rebirth, but it's one with all the conditions to be able to practice the Dharma. So even more difficult to create the causes for it. So when we think about this and how kind of miraculously it is that we have this life, and then remember that it's not going to really last for so long. And every moment that passes is one moment closer to our death. And although we think that we won't die for a very long time, all the people who died today thought that as well. So there's no certainty about when our death will come. And at the time of death, there is no choice but to die. We have no negotiating power. No doctor can save us. No lawyer can save us. No loved one can save us. And we go on to our next rebirth alone. With our karma, with our habitual mental states. And so seeing this and understanding that the time of death can be very precarious. If we don't have a vast store of merit, then not sure what karma will ripen. And even if we do have a vast store of merit, it's not sure what kind of mental state we'll be in at the time of death. So the only real security we have is if we have realized emptiness, if we know the ultimate nature, and so can really let go of all grasping at I and mine at the time of death. So we should really put some effort into trying to understand emptiness, even if we can't realize it, at least to get some kind of feeling for it. So that at the time we die, at least intellectually we can say to ourselves, there's no inherently existent person that's dying. So in order to realize emptiness, we need a lot of preliminary Dharma practices, purification, creation of merit, listening to teachings. And the teachings that we're going to hear tonight have to do with the Course on Reasoning. And reasoning is a very appropriate and excellent tool to help us understand the nature of reality. So with that ultimate aim of Buddhahood in mind, so it can benefit others and ourselves most effectively, let's work on creating the causes to realize emptiness, the emptiness of inherent existence, the ultimate nature of reality, which is what will actually free us from cyclic existence. And since we don't have any time to waste in learning this, let's really put our energy into it. So we always think we have a long time to live. Yesterday there was a school shooting in, I don't know if the name is Free, what was it, Rockwood or Rockford. It's a town near Spokane, south of Spokane, so in our area. And kids went to school like every other day, high school kids thinking, have a good time at school, goof off with your friends. And one of the kids who was a student there came with a rifle and a pistol, and he shot one of his best friends and injured 3 other kids before the custodian actually tackled him. And so he's in jail. And I was thinking, one action like that, and he changed the course of so many people's lives, One kid who's probably 15, huh? The sophomore, so 15, is dead. His family's devastated. Probably the kid who did the killing, his family is devastated. And his life is going to turn out completely different than it would have if he had not done that, which took maybe 1 minute of his, the whole thing was completed in just a few minutes. But those few minutes completely changed his life and what's possible for him, as well as what's possible for the other kids and their families. So, we always think that our life is planned out and things are secure and we know what's going to go on. In actual fact, everything is very iffy, and who knows what could happen in any particular moment. So it's good to keep that in mind so that our mind is not anxious. Anxiety doesn't help with anything, but so that our mind is aware of what cyclic existence is and can keep a positive state as much as possible at all times, so that when the unexpected comes, our mind will be in a good state. And, because the unexpected comes a lot. It's not necessarily, getting shot or dying, but so many unexpected things happen each day. And so often we get angry when something unexpected happens because we just didn't have it in our radar. And yet, we kind of need to keep everything in our radar, in the sense that things are changing all the time. And, we are not there's no self that is a controller of everything. So to have a compassionate mind, a wise mind, so that as much as possible, whatever comes into our field of experience, we can greet it with wisdom and compassion, without fear and anxiety. Yeah. So we may have a lot of habit with fear and anxiety, but that doesn't mean that we have to continue that habit, or that habit is the only choice of what we have to do. There's a lot of choice, so we should start thinking of how to train our mind in different mental states so that we really can take that choice and have that choice, and not just operate on default like push button, Unexpected happens, push button, anxiety, push button, fear. No, but to really, see how else we can greet those situations. Okay. So these teachings, on reasoning are really helping us to learn how to think clearly. Yeah. We think that we know how to think clearly, but, even doing these, the 4 points with so many things, it's like, yeah, we have to really stop and think. We don't think so clearly how things relate to each other. So before we read something, one person wrote in a question and said they were thinking about what are the 4 points between love and compassion. Okay, that's how the question was written. How are we going to compare love and compassion? Okay, so is there something that's both love and compassion? Can love and compassion occur at the same time? They're two different mental factors. Yeah, they're two different mental factors. Are they mutually inclusive or not? If they were mutually inclusive, then it would be redundant to say love and compassion. So they must be different. Yeah. Which means you think there's 4 possibilities? So here we're with the first one. What's both love and compassion? He said the wish to help a hungry person.
I guess I can imagine there's a state of mind where you're both wishing someone to be happy and not wanting to suffer. But what you would name that in one word.
Can that wish be 2 different mental factors? Are we talking about mental factors here? Love and compassion are both mental factors. They're separate mental factors. Or are we talking about mental states where one mental state could have both love and compassion? If we're just saying love and compassion, then you have to pick one mental factor that is both love, and that same mental factor is both compassion, is both love and compassion. Yeah, they seem like just the mental factors are mutually exclusive. So when you say what's the same of love and compassion, you have to think about, what do you mean? The mental factors or the mental states in which the mental factors of love and compassion can be in the concomitant with the primary mind? Because you can have a mental state that has, I would think, both love and compassion as mental factors in it. But the 2 mental factors are different. In the same way, we can have one mental state that has ignorance and love, but ignorance and love are different mental factors. But you can have one mental state that has more than one mental factor. And love and compassion are certainly not, they don't seem contradictory to me. So I would think that one mental factor, you could have both love and compassion. I mean, one mental state, you could have both love and compassion in the retinue of the different mental factors. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah?
Think of it that way, then I would think you could say 4 possibilities, and one that would be both would be like a bodhisattva, always crying bodhisattva.
Always crying bodhisattva is a person.
Right, but a person.
A person is not a mental state, and a person is not a mental factor. When do you see what I'm getting at? People, we think in a very sloppy way. Yeah? Okay, so first of all, are we talking about the mental factors, love and compassion, or are we talking about mental states that could have love and compassion? Yeah, Venerable Sepa? We have to decide. Let's decide one or the other. Remember when we studied low rig, there can be a primary mind, and then a primary mind has different mental factors. There's the 5 omniscient ones, and then there's other mental factors that color that mental state. So love and compassion are both those, in the category of the other mental factors that can join in with that primary mind and its 5 omnipresent mental factors. A mental state is including the primary mind plus the mental factors. Do you remember when? I remember the mental factors. Okay, so a primary mind, yeah. When we talk about consciousness. It can be There's mind and there's mental factors. Yeah. Amongst mind, we have the 5 primary sense consciousnesses and the primary mental conscious. Among mental factors, there's many, but there's 51 that we study in particular. Okay. When you have a mental state, then you have a primary mind with certain mental factors that are concomitant or associated with it. So among those, there's 5 omnipresent ones. Yeah, do you remember what they are? Feeling, discrimination, intention, contact, attention. Okay, so those 5 come with every primary mind, whether it's a sense consciousness or a mental consciousness. Plus, there's other mental factors that can also join in. Okay, so love and compassion you find amongst the 11 virtuous mental factors. This is why it is important to remember what you studied before. Okay, so are we talking about just the mental factors, or are we talking about a mental state that consists of a primary mind plus mental factors? Which one do you want to talk about? We could talk about either one, you just have to decide. Okay, so we'll do a mental state. So, is there a mental state in which you have both love and compassion? You don't think love and compassion can occur in one mental state?
No, the reason is that mental factors share the 5 similarities with their main mind.
Right.
And love and compassion, although they focus on the same object, they have different aspects. So if you have the aspect of wishing all sentient beings to be free of suffering, that's a different aspect. That primary mental consciousness will have that aspect too. If you're talking about love, then you're wishing for that your object to have happiness and the causes of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they would have to come alternately.
You think they would go alternately very quickly?
Yeah, because they have
between
different aspects.
love and compassion. Possible. Yeah. I wonder if anybody would say that they are not, although they're different mental factors, their aspects are very, very similar, because it's hard to wish somebody to be alleviated from free of suffering if you don't always also wish them to be happy. But it is possible to have a mind that's focused more particularly on compassion and one that's focused more particularly on love. Yeah. Or it could be, like you say, that you go back and forth. Yeah?
If not, I think you would hear people talking about bodhicitta, or the cause of bodhicitta being, the primary cause, the substantial cause being love and compassion, but they just talk about it as being compassion. So I think that they're distinguishing there, that the aspect is really wishing them to be free of suffering.
Yeah.
Even though it's informed by love previously as one of the causes.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be an interesting thing to ask about, but certainly, yeah, I think yours has reason in it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, what she's saying, then how would it be that those multiple virtuous mental factors can all be occurring at the same time? Because they also talk about the virtuous mental factors all occurring at once. And they aren't necessarily...
They don't say all of them occur at once.
There's some positions that hold that. And they aren't necessarily...
they don't say all 11 occur at once. But
some people hold that position, because I've read it.
Can you cite an example of who says that? Or yeah, maybe check that.
When talking about the holding the same aspect of the mental factors, could that be they just have the aspect of a suffering person in front of them that need, like, the recognition, like they're holding the object of a person suffering, needing food? Is that a wrong interpretation?
No, the aspect is kind of how you're relating to it. So compassion's aspect is wanting the person to be free of suffering. Love is wanting them to have happiness.
And if we were talking about the mental factors instead of the mental state, they would be mutually exclusive?
Yeah. Let's go finish with the 4, okay? So if we say that there's no mental states that are both love and compassion, is there a mental state that is love that is not compassion? Yes, for example. So wanting someone to learn the Dharma so they can have the happiness of becoming awakened. Good. Is there something that is a mental state with compassion, but does not have love? Okay, so wishing somebody with a broken leg to be free of pain. Yeah, so you can see that those are approaching a person from 2 different things. Is there something that's neither a mental state with love or a mental state with compassion? Wishing someone with a broken leg to have pain. Okay. So do you see how we have to be very clear what it is exactly we're comparing? Yeah, we can't just say love and compassion and then give examples of physical actions, because physical actions are not mental factors.
Thinking of these 2 as 2 mental factors,
Mm-hmm.
I think of, like, even if they were could be in the same mind, it's like salt and pepper are mutually exclusive, even if you put them in the same soup. Because the soup is neither pepper nor salt.
Yeah.
And that mental mind would be neither.
Yeah. I mean, you can have different mental factors together. We can have the mental factor of, feeling together with the mental factor of love within one primary mind. Okay? Okay, another question before I do that. Another question also came up about non-existent. Can you compare the category of non-existent with chair? No. This is your question. You can't. Non-existent is not an existent. So you can't compare it to anything, even the category of non-existent. Okay, it's different than what I said to you before. Okay, even the category of non-existent does not exist. Yeah, it is selfless, but remember, everything that's selfless is not necessarily existent. No, you can't. Remember, for two things, to compare two things, they both have to be existent. So one of them cannot be the category of non-existent, because that category doesn't exist.
Right. So even if, when you compare, you can find examples, you still cannot compare.
The category has to be existent. Even if the examples, you can cite a lot of examples. Does somebody have the book? Let me read you from Non-Existent. Yeah? Recall that the selfless encompasses both existence and non-existence. Thus, the Buddhists are making the point that everything we can imagine, whether real in any sense or not at all real, is free of a self. It may seem trivial to note that that non-existence are free of a self, but it better disposes of the question. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading it with I don't get so much distinction here. My eyes are not. It better disposes of the question to note that a permanent, unitary, independent self is not to be found anywhere. So there is no definition of a non-existent, because a non-existent does not exist and has no qualities to be characterized. Definitions and definienda are established on the basis of their illustrations, which must be existent. Therefore, there can be no definition of the non-existent. Even so, some say, okay, so there's a different opinion. Some say that the definition of a non-existence is that which is not observed by a reliable cognizer. According to, that sounds good for a definition of non-existent, doesn't it? Yeah. So then non-existent would exist. It has a definition, but how do you perceive it? That which is not observed by a valid cognizer. But if non-existent is existent, then it should be observed by a valid cognizer, a reliable cognizer, because that's the definition of existent. So you can't say the category of non-existent is existent. Okay. According to Demolocha Rinpoche, this proposed definition incurs the fallacy of non-occurrence. A non-existent is not an existent and is not experienced as an existent. Thus, it does not occur. A non-existent would have to be established, meaning established by a reliable cognizer, with its illustrations, those things that illustrate the quality of a non-existent. However, we cannot observe by any reliable consciousness that for existence, a square, circle, or any other non-existent has the quality of a non-existent. So there is nothing to illustrate a non-existent. So there is no definition of a non-existent. Also, I know of no division of non-existence, and somehow I doubt there could be one. Okay? So whether you see non-existent, if you see it as a category, non-existence, there's examples of non-existent, but there's not something that illustrates the character of a non-existent, because the characteristics of a non-existent, because non-existents don't have any characteristics. Because if they did, they would exist. Okay? So therefore, you can't compare a non-existent to anything else. Yeah? Okay. Okay. So just to review the previous one, let's do a couple of things. Let's compare animals and persons. Okay, do we have two people who want to do it? Okay, one here. Somebody else? Okay. So you do it with each other. Animals and persons.
How do the two compare, animals and persons?
There are 3 possibilities between animals and persons.
It follows that there are not 3 possibilities between animals and persons. Give an example of something that is both an animal and a person.
There is something, a cat.
Now, which way does the perversion go?
An animal is necessarily a person, but it doesn't hold that a person is necessarily an animal.
Give an example of something that is an animal but not a person.
We just did that
We
one.
just
I
did
did
that
that,
one.
okay.
A
Yeah.
person, that's not an animal.
Yeah,
A person is not an animal, okay.
yeah.
There is something, a human being.
Give an example of something that is neither a person nor an animal.
There is something, justice.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So do you understand that an animal is a person? Okay, when we talk, persons can be any beings in the 6 realms. A person can be a carpenter, a fireman, a teacher, hungry ghost, a deva, a bodhisattva, an Arya Buddha. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this kind of thing helps you to understand, what does the category person mean? It doesn't mean just human being.
So is a person the same as a sentient being, or is there any?
Okay. Let's compare sentient being and person. Okay. Is there something that is both a sentient being and a person? Yeah. Venerable Samten. Okay. Sentient being and a person. Sentient being, and a person. Is there something that's a sentient being but not a person? There aren't any. Okay. What is a person but not a sentient being? An Arya Buddha. Okay. Is just Buddha a person but not a sentient being? No. Okay. Is a Nirmanakaya a person but not a sentient being? An emanation body is a person. That's an interesting one. Is a Nirmanakaya that's a bridge, a person. Sounds funny, doesn't it? Yeah. But whatever is one of the 4 kayas is not necessarily a person. Okay, if we do the 4 kaya, the 4 Buddha bodies in person, how do they compare? Is there something that is one of a Buddha body plus and also a person? Yes. What? Yeah. What's an example of a Nirmanakaya? Shakyamuni Buddha. Okay. Is there something that is what are we comparing? 4 Buddha bodies and persons. Is there something that's one of the 4 Buddha bodies but not a person? The wisdom Dharmakaya, okay, yeah. Also the nature Dharmakaya. Is there something that is one of the four Buddha, a person, but not one of the four Buddha bodies? What? Yeah, a sentient being. There's something that's neither. So do you see how doing this helps you really try and think and understand what things are? Yeah, because so often we think we know things, but when we start to ask these kinds of questions, we realize that we don't really understand.
You started out this comparing humans and animals.
Uh-huh.
Technically, a human is an animal. It's just a higher order of animal.
Yeah. No, we were doing animals and persons.
And the difference would be?
Oh, that's true. Yeah. From a Buddhist system, animals and humans are different realms, so they're not the same. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a good thing to bring something like that up, because then you have to see what system are we analyzing in terms of the Buddhism or scientific categorization of, things. Okay, shall we read from the book a little bit? Okay, so 4 possibilities. Just as in the case of 3 possibilities, 4 possibilities might be more literally translated as 4 corners. In this case, there are usually 4 things to point to in the discussion of the comparison. Also, as in the case of 3 possibilities, this is one of the 2 comparisons for which the debaters make a difference between 1, the case of 4 possibilities for which there is something outside of the 2 circles, that is neither a P nor a Q, and 2, the case of 4 possibilities for which there is nothing outside the 2 circles, that is neither a P nor a Q. Okay, so how are the 2 circles drawn in case of 4 possibilities? Yeah, like this. So there's some overlapping area and some distinct areas. In either of the 2 types of 4 possibilities, this is the comparison where some are and some are not, in both directions. Okay, like happy people and smart people. Some happy people are smart and some are not, and some smart people are happy and some are not. In both of the cases of 4 possibilities, there's no pervasion between the 2 things being compared, not in either direction. Yeah, because you would not say if it's a happy person, it's necessarily a smart person. Okay. Whatever is a P is not necessarily a Q, and whatever is a Q is not necessarily a P. For example, it is not the case that all happy people are smart people, and it is not the case that all smart people are happy people. Some are and some aren't. Okay? The comparison of 4 possibilities is represented by the 2 circles overlapping. It is essential that there must be at least one thing that is both a P and a Q inside the overlapping 2 circles in that central part. Also, whether or not there is anything that is neither, there must be something that is a P but not a Q. So inside the Q circle, but not inside the P circle, but not inside the Q circle. And there must be something that is a Q but not a P. So inside the Q circle, but outside the P circle. You can understand this. You can understand from this that it is also not the case that whatever is a P is not a Q, and it is not the case that whatever is a Q is necessarily not a P. Okay? So there can be something that is both a P and a Q. Okay? That is part of being some are and some aren't. Okay. So, answer and debate. There are 4 possibilities between Q and P. The classic case of 4 possibilities has all 4 points to touch on. These 4, there is something that is both a P and a Q. There is something that is a P but not a Q. There is something that's a Q but not a P. And there's something that's neither of them. Here, too, the relative sizes of the circles may or may not represent the relative extensions or the sizes of the two groups that you're comparing. Okay. So, for example, this is the comparison between blue and the colors of cloth. Okay, so let's do that. What's the comparison between blue and colors of cloth? How many how many points? How many corners? 4. Okay, so is there something that is both blue and the color of a cloth? Yes, what? Yeah, the Anagarika jacket. Okay. No, the color of the Anagarika jacket. Yeah. The Anagarika jacket is yeah. Okay, so what's the Anagarika jacket? If we're comparing blue and the color of cloth, which one is the Anagarika jacket? Yeah, the jacket itself is not either of the two. Okay, so is there something that is blue that is not the color of a cloth? Yes, for the color of the blue sky. Why don't you just say blue sky? Because that's not a color. Okay. Is there something that is the color of a cloth but not blue? Yeah. The color of our robes. Yeah. Okay. And then something that's neither blue nor the color of cloth. The Anagarika jacket. The chart, when it has on the second line for the color of the blue sky, there should be an X under the colors of cloth instead of a checkpoint, a check. So the chart shows that the color of a blue cotton shirt is both blue and the color of cloth. That the color of a blue sky is blue, but is not the color of a cloth. That the color of a white shirt is the color of a cloth, but not blue. And that the color of a ruby is neither blue nor the color of a cloth. In this case, there are examples in all 4 possibilities. Okay. So let's do the first one here. Money and things of value. How do they compare? Do we have 2 people?
How do the two compare, Venerable Tarpa? Money and things of value.
There are 4 possibilities between money and things of value.
It follows that there are not 4 possibilities between money and things of value. Give an example of something that is both money and a thing of value.
There is something, the subject, a $100 bill.
Give an example of something that is a thing of value but not money.
There is something, our Buddha statue.
Give an example of something that is a thing of value but not money.
We did that
I
one.
just did that. Something that's
That is a thing
money but not a thing of value.
No, we
but
did that
money.
one.
No, we didn't do that
Yeah.
one yet. Money
We
but
did.
not a
Okay, money but not a king of value.
money
A
but
thing of
not a thing
value.
of value.
What's that unit of money in India? That
A rupee.
really small, even smaller than
Pesa.
Pesa, a pesa.
Yeah.
It's money but not a thing of value.
Yeah.
Give an example of something that is neither money nor a thing of value.
A crayon.
A crayon. Okay. Now, to a child, a crayon might be a thing of value. Yeah. So you also have to, specify a value to whom. Yeah. Not just thing of value, because we don't all agree on what a thing of value is. Okay. How about, let's do 4 points between, no, we did this last week, but I think it's good to review, between empty and existent. Between empty and existent. Is there some, yeah? So how do they compare?
It follows that there are three possibilities between empty and existent.
It follows that there are not three possibilities between empty and existent. Give an example of something that is both empty and existent.
My laptop.
Now, which way does the provision go?
It follows that whatever is an existent is necessarily empty, but what is empty is not necessarily an existent.
So give an example of something that is existent but not empty.
There is nothing that is existent but not empty. And then
Yeah, so give an example of something that is neither empty nor existent.
there is nothing that is, There's
Give
there's
an
not, there's
example of
not,
something that is neither empty nor existent.
there is nothing that is neither
Is
empty nor
neither
existent.
empty nor existent.
So it's
Yeah,
three
so it's-
possibilities with nothing that is neither.
Wait a minute. So there's something that was both, empty and existent is
Laptop.
a laptop,
Yes.
okay? Something that is empty but not existent,
The horns are a rabbit.
rabbit's horn, okay? Something that is existent but not empty, nothing. Something that is neither existent nor empty.
Nothing.
Then emptiness and existent. Okay, somebody would like to do those, emptiness and existent.
How do the two, emptiness and existent, compare?
There are three possibilities between emptiness and existent.
It follows that there are not three possibilities between emptiness and existent. Give an example of something that is both emptiness and existent.
The emptiness of the laptop.
Okay, that's fun.
Now, which way does the pervasion go?
Everything that is emptiness is necessarily an existent. Everything, but it's not the case that everything that is existent is necessarily emptiness.
Give an example of something that is emptiness but not an existent.
There is nothing that is emptiness but not an existent.
Give an example of something that is neither emptiness nor an existent.
No, do the pervasion.
Oh, the
other way.
opposite. Give an example of something that is an existent
Existent.
but not emptiness.
The laptop is an example of something that is an existent but not emptiness.
Okay,
Give an example of something that is neither emptiness nor an existent.
The horns of a rabbit.
so 3. Okay, what about the two truths?
How do the two compare? Conventional truth, veiled truth, and ultimate truth.
Mutually exclusive.
So it follows that they are not mutually exclusive between veiled truth and conventional truth. Veiled truth and ultimate truth. Giving an example of something that is both a veiled truth and an ultimate truth.
There's nothing that is both an ultimate truth and a conventional truth.
Give an example of something that is a veiled truth but not an ultimate truth.
There is something, the subject, a cup.
Give an example of something that is an ultimate truth but not a veiled truth.
There is something, the subject, the emptiness of the cup.
Give an example of something that is neither a veiled truth nor an ultimate truth.
A sky flower. There is something, the subject, the sky flower.
Oh, yeah, okay. So 3, yeah.
So there's definitely nothing that's both, is that correct?
Yeah, if they're mutually exclusive, there's nothing that's both.
So the answer that if they were mutually exclusive is correct, is what I'm asking.
That there are, yeah, mutually exclusive is right. But that doesn't mean that there's no points. There's, of the 4 corners, it doesn't mean there's no corners.
No, but
It means that there's nothing that's both of them.
once you answer the first question, then you already know which it is.
Yeah,
If you answer no to the first question.
yeah.
Okay.
I thought that emptiness exists only conventionally.
It does exist only conventionally. Then let's do, what are the 4 between conventional truth and conventionally existent? Because I think that's what you're getting down to, isn't it? You're thinking emptiness exists conventionally, so why isn't it a conventional truth? Is that what you're
Yes.
thinking?
Yes.
Okay, so then you're thinking that everything that exists conventionally must be a conventional truth. You think there's a pervasion like that. So let's compare conventionally existent and conventional truth. Okay? Is there something that is both conventionally existent and a conventional truth?
Yes.
Yes, what?
The water bowl.
Okay, water bowl. Is there something that is conventionally existent but not a conventional truth?
Emptiness.
Emptiness. Is there something that is a conventional truth but not conventionally existent?
No.
No. Is there something that is neither conventionally existent nor a conventional truth?
Yes.
What?
Ultimate truth?
No, because
Yeah,
an
yeah.
ultimate truth is conventionally existent.
And non-existent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Non-existent, yeah. Yeah, an ultimate truth exists conventionally, but it is not a conventional truth because it's an ultimate truth. Okay, I'll give you something. You can figure out what it is. How about good drivers and someone with a driver's license? How many points are there between them? 4. Okay, 2 people do the
How do the 2 compare? Good drivers and someone with a driver's license.
There are 4 possibilities between drivers, good drivers and drivers with licenses.
It follows that there are not 4 possibilities between good drivers and a driver, good drivers and someone with a driver's license. Give an example of both.
Good drivers and drivers with licenses.
Now give an example of a person.
Of a person who has a driver's license and a good driver. There is somebody, Venerable Tarpa.
Give an example of someone who has a driver's license but is not a good driver.
There is somebody, a driver under the influence of alcohol.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah.
Give an example of someone that is neither a good driver nor
No, you have to do somebody who's a good driver but doesn't have a driver's license.
Okay. Give an example of someone who is a good driver and who does not have a driver's license.
There is somebody,
Oh, no, that's not.
Ryan.
Give an example of someone who is neither a good driver nor do they have a driver's license.
There is somebody, Venerable Jordan.
What?
No, I have a
No
driver's
driver's license?
license.
No, yeah.
I have a
You
license.
have a driver's license? Okay.
Try my tree. Or try. Yeah, a
child.
child.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Could
a
be a good-
specific child.
A good would be a good.
No,
would be
who's
neither.
neither.
A good. Yes, a small, a 6-year-old child.
In the debate process, Is there a place where you figure out agreeing on a definition?
Yeah,
So-
you have to
So
agree
do
on
you
definitions.
start the debate like that?
Yeah, you can't do a debate if you don't have common
So
definitions.
we were talking about this yesterday, hate speech and freedom of speech.
Not freedom. Freedom of speech. I think you could say because hate speech is words. Freedom of speech isn't words. It's how can we phrase it so that we're comparing it? Yeah, a type of speech. So free speech maybe. Yeah, free speech and hate speech. Yeah, so free speech, it would be something that accords with the First Amendment, if we agree on that. That's I'll ask the Supreme Court. But I'm not saying that they know, we can figure that. But, this will actually bring it out if we start to debate it.
How do the two compare, free speech and hate speech?
So I think there's 4 possibilities.
It follows that there are not 4 possibilities. Give an example of something that is both free speech and hate speech.
Claiming that President Obama is not an American.
Okay. Are we accepting that definition? Would that fall under the hate speech? Not sure.
Do people
Well,
consider
Calling President Obama a monkey, okay. Is that hateful enough?
Yeah.
I think that maybe some sort of like anti-Semite comment or very racist comment would be hate speech, but
It was very difficult to find the definition of free speech. So hate speech is a communication that carries no meaning other than the expression of hatred for some group, especially in circumstances in which the communication is likely to provoke violence. It is an incitement to hatred primarily against a group of persons defined in terms of race, ethnicity, national origin, gender, religion, sexual orientation, and the like. Hate speech can be any form of expression regarded as offensive to racial, ethnic, and religious groups and other discrete minorities or to women.
Okay, so what is an example of both? We're still on that.
Okay, so God hates homosexuals would be an example of both. Technically, that's free speech, but it's also hate speech.
because hate speech is laws, that's not protected under free speech. You can't say that.
What? Say that again?
So the hate speech laws, they take that phrase out of the lexicon of free speech. Like you can't say that and be saying something that you're protected under freedom of speech with.
Okay, so you're saying there's nothing
Right.
that is legally hate speech and free speech.
Hateful speech, maybe, but not hate speech. You can have hateful speech, but not hate speech.
So are we in the realm of mutually exclusive then? So then there's only 3 options.
Well, let's go through the other options.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
seems like,
so there's
nothing.
that is
Okay.
both. Give an example of something that is free speech but not hate speech.
Something that is free speech would be yelling, "I love flowers."
Give an
Okay.
example of something that is hate speech but not free speech.
Hate speech would be, "God wants to kill," enter whatever group you want to enter.
What's something that is neither hate speech nor free speech?
A cloud.
Yeah. Okay. So it's interesting if we say hate speech and free speech are contradictory. Yeah. Then we're, like what you were saying, calling President Obama a monkey, which one does that fall under? Hate speech, but not free speech. Okay. What about what the Nazis say or what the white supremacists say? Hate speech, but not free speech. But they're claiming it's free speech. So on what basis do they say it's free speech? And they're saying it's free speech, but not hate speech. So on what basis are they saying that? How are they defining the two? That they're saying it's free speech, but not hate speech.
I would think that they would have to say that it's, if you went by their opinion, you'd have to say that they're not mutually exclusive, and that the hate speech laws are infringing upon their freedom of speech. Mm-hmm. That's what they've been claiming.
Yeah.
And especially people that are saying exactly things like God hates homosexuals. They're like, we can't even say what we want in our own churches, or we'll go to jail, which of course they are saying these things in their churches and they're not going to jail. But they wouldn't be mutually exclusive then. So that's really a crux of it, mm-hmm. of whether or not there are two things that could be defined either way.
Yeah, well, that's why you have to define, what the two things.
So we didn't really define free speech then.
Well,
because free speech, if you looked at it as defined by the First Amendment, mm-hmm. then that's where you come up with, can person say this? Because the First Amendment was based on, I don't have to agree with what you say, but I agree with your right to say it.
Yeah.
And we've decided that that's detrimental to society.
Yeah.
Yeah, given the example last time about that church, Westboro Baptist Church, and
right.
how I guess it went to the Supreme Court, or maybe it was just a lower court, but it was decided legally that them screaming, your child deserved to die because of homosexuality. I mean,
the child wasn't even, the soldier wasn't even gay. It's just that, there's gays in America, so therefore, their reasoning is there's gays in America, so therefore, of course, your child who's in the military died.
So many would consider that hate speech.
It's a strange syllogism.
But I wonder what the legal rationale was behind saying that's not hate speech. Maybe because it's not personal to the person who died. It can go either way. I mean,
Yeah, why wouldn't they call it the hate speech? Maybe because they'd say it's not inciting people to violence.
I thought the case was about where they can scream that.
Yeah.
That it was more about where they can scream their stuff.
Right.
Or protests.
Yeah, but it is that, but it had to do something with free speech. I mean, are there two categories of free speech? One, you can say near the person that you're insulting, near the person you want to hurt, and another that you have to step back from them before you say it.
So according to this one website says, which types of speech are not protected by the First Amendment? Although different scholars view unprotected speech in different ways, there are basically 9 categories. Obscenity is not protected by the First Amendment. Fighting words, defamation, fighting
words, okay.
Defamation, including libel and slander, child pornography, perjury, blackmail, incitement to imminent lawless action, true threats and solicitations to commit crimes are not protected by the First Amendment.
Okay, so they're saying that the Americans are being punished because there's gays in America. Does it fall under any of those categories?
Fighting words, defamation.
I think it would be defamation if they were talking about the soldier at the soldier's funeral, but their picket protest is so scattered, like it's not just about the soldier. It's very widespread, so they're not just defaming although they are at the same time. This is a tricky.
Yeah, they are offending people.
Yeah.
Aren't they slandering a whole class of people?
But their claim is not slanderous by nature. It is very terrible, but slander is sending a spoken wrong truth about a specific person.
Yeah.
And it's an opinion that gays are going to go to hell. It's not an untruth.
Depends who's thinking it. Yeah. Yeah. Are you in law school?
Seems like it's slander against homosexuals, not necessarily the soldiers whose funeral they're at, but
Yeah.
a whole class of people.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what they're all saying.
Yeah, but he's saying it's an opinion. And you're saying slander has to be a wrong truth, a lie. So we consider what they're saying to be a lie. They consider it to be a truth. Yeah. So just even conventionally. So we should be able, I mean, still it doesn't make much logic, much sense, you know. Even if somebody believes, you know, that homosexuality is a sin or whatever, why is that a connection between, you know, therefore American soldiers deserve to die? Yeah, that doesn't hold water. Anyway, okay, should we do some more here?
This is something that you didn't debate with Jeffrey about.
Uh-huh.
Well, how about would be thought and non-conceptual thought?
See, to me, all thought needs to be conceptual thought. Yeah. I could say some of what they call conceptuality doesn't need to be thought. Yeah, because they often say that the white and red appearance are conceptual consciousnesses, but they're not thought as we define thought. But to me, when I think of thought, it would have, I think it would have to be conceptual. Jeffrey said no, because he was translating the word thought as intention. Yeah, we often translated it as the intention, and he was thinking of it as thought, meaning the intention or the purpose of the Buddha. And I was saying thought is, I would have a narrower definition of the word thought. 4 possibilities without anything that is neither. Why don't we do that? Okay. There are 4 possibilities between P and Q without anything that is neither. So some pairs of phenomena compare in a similar way to the classic example of 4 possibilities, but for them there is nothing you can posit as anything that is neither. As in the case of 3 possibilities without the possibility of something that is neither, in Buddhist reasoning and debate, this is marked as a separate case. So here are the 3 points. There is something that is both a P and a Q. There is something that is a P but not a Q. And there is something that is a Q but not a P. In this case, there is nothing one can point to which is neither a P nor a Q. As in the normal cases of 4 possibilities, we can say some are and some aren't. But it's still 3 possibilities, not 4. Comparisons of this type necessarily involve 2 phenomena that together include all existence and non-existence as well. An example of this type of comparison is the comparison of existence, P, and non-permanent phenomena, Q. Okay? which includes all existence other than impermanent phenomena, as well as all non-existence. So non-impermanent phenomena means everything that is not a permanent phenomena. If you had it with the parentheses before non-impermanent and then phenomena, then that would refer to permanent phenomena. Okay, so that's why the parentheses are there. So non-impermanent phenomena refer to everything that's not an impermanent phenomena, which includes non-existence. Okay, so it's explaining the chart, something that's both an existent and a non-impermanent phenomena. Okay, for example, a permanent phenomena, okay? Something that is an existent but not a non-impermanent phenomena. A pot. Okay, a pot exists. A pot is also, it's not a non-permanent phenomena. Yeah, okay. And then, okay, something that is, there's something that's a non-impermanent phenomena, but not an existent. Okay, a fourth possibility. I can't help it. Well, I can. Yeah. A fourth possibility, something that is neither, is inconceivable. Something which, on the one hand, is not an existent, and on the other, is a non-impermanent phenomena, that is, an impermanent phenomena, cannot be posited. Okay? Because a non-impermanent phenomena is an impermanent phenomena. As indicated by the use of the horn of a rabbit as the subject in the third point above, it is not necessary that the individual possibilities be existents. It is only necessary that there be a subject that exemplifies the two qualities of the individual point. So in line with this sense of a possibility, something that is not an existent but is an impermanent phenomena is not possible. So let's save the exercise for next week, because that will help us review what we just read. Okay?